Without further ado, I'd like to roll into today's program. It's a special day here at Boulder Rotary because this is International Peace Week. This is Rotary Peace Corps Week, which is going to be the highlight of our program here today. This is a first for the club. We have a multi-access presentation. We have a speaker here in the room. We also have one on Zoom, and we're going to make this work. So I'd like to introduce Charlie Hunt. Charlie served in the Peace Corps from 2006 and 2008 in Vanuatu. He served as the club president, the foundation president, and the international service chair of his club, which is the Denver Lodo Rotary Club. And he's one of the premier architects of the relationship that Rotary has with the Peace Corps. Online, we have Travis Tasto, who served the Peace Corps in China from 2014 to 2016. He is a Denver native. He served as the Peace Corps recruiter in Boston and now has that same role here in Denver. So without further ado, Charlie Hunt and Travis Tasto.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to speak in front of your club. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the presentation. I appreciate, again, your flexibility with the presentation over Zoom and in person. I can see it there on the screen. So if y'all can hear me all right, you can see me all right, I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so as mentioned, my name's Travis. I did serve in China. That was 2014 to 2016. And the thing about the Peace Corps is that we do the job that we are asked to do. So China was looking for only English educators. And so that's what I did. I was an English teacher, taught primarily spoken English, but I did teach a couple of writing classes. That was in a province called Guizhou, which if you are not familiar with that part of China, it's pretty close to Chengdu and Sichuan. In addition to teaching English, I did have a couple of different secondary projects. I do have a slide that shows what I did there. And I was trained in Mandarin Chinese. So just to go over some of the basics about Peace Corps, because a lot of folks may have heard about Peace Corps. Maybe you had somebody that you knew that was in Peace Corps, or you've heard about it through pop culture. The Peace Corps, the mission is pretty lofty. It's international friendship and peace, right? So I think that's a very fitting presentation for this week for your club. And this mission is supported by 3 goals. The first goal is to really help people in underserved communities by sending trained US citizens there to help. The second and third goal are really kind of more about cultural exchange. So really helping folks to understand what Americans are like around the world, and then having those returned Peace Corps volunteers after they finish their service, come back and share out about what their experience was like. So they can answer that question. What was it like to serve in Tanzania? What was it like to serve in Madagascar? What was it like to serve in Mexico? So those are the 3 goals of the Peace Corps to support that mission of international peace and friendship. So again, just so you're aware of the kind of basic requirements, you have to be over 18, you do have to be a US citizen in order to serve. There is no upper age limit there. And for Peace Corps service, to be a Peace Corps volunteer, the length of service is about 27 months. That's 3 months of training and 2 years of service. But we do have a program that might be of interest to folks that have a lot of life and work experience. So, on the top half of this slide, we've got, this is the Peace Corps 2-year program, 27 months in 6 sectors, which I'll get to, trends a little bit to the younger side. And then Peace Corps response, those are typically shorter duration, higher impact positions for folks that do have a fair amount of experience. A bit more technically focused, like it says, and then average age trends up a bit more towards 44 years old. So a lot of folks that might be kind of mid-career, retired, have a lot of experience and are looking to do kind of short-term, high-impact work in Peace Corps. As to where we're serving, this was, I think, updated as of 2020, March of 2020. These are all of the countries where Peace Corps has served more recently. We've got Mexico, Central, South America, About 40% of our programs are in Africa. We do have programs in Eastern Europe and in Asia and the Pacific. And as of right now, we currently do not have any Peace Corps volunteers in the field. Back in March of 2020, so last year, we did evacuate all Peace Corps volunteers from their programs, looking to return to service next calendar year. In terms of the program sectors, as I had mentioned before, there are a lot of sectors that Peace Corps and Rotary kind of focus on, and there's you can see a significant overlap here. So our sectors are primarily in education, but there's also a high need for health. We're historically best known for work in agriculture. We have these other program areas a bit newer: youth development, community economic development, and environment programs that focus on conservation efforts, conservation of water, soil, other resources. And the other thing that I did want to touch on too is that in addition to your primary role as a Peace Corps volunteer, I was an education volunteer, for example. You also are encouraged to do secondary projects. So those are projects that, with the support of your community, right? You're trying to understand what are the needs of your specific communities. One of my secondary projects was a cooking club. So this was something that I did every Friday night when I was teaching. I had a sign-up sheet outside of my office door, and I had about 10 students come over every Friday night. We'd cook a big meal, usually a Western meal, and then something that maybe they were more familiar with. But beer battered fried fish was a huge hit, so we had that more often than not. And then we would play blackjack, sing songs, look at photos on my computer, that kind of thing. So this was a way to really give them more face time. We had a lot of material to cover during the work week, during class. So this was an opportunity to really sit down and have that kind of person-to-person contact, again, kind of in support of that mission, right? All right, so I want to briefly touch on, some of the benefits of Peace Corps service. So, one of the questions that I get all the time is, what is the cost of being a volunteer? And to be very honest with you, there are no costs. You're volunteering your time. It is a federal taxpayer funded program. So they're supporting you while you're on this mission. They cover a living stipend that is kind of close to what someone in that country would make. Housing is provided by your community. You do have full medical, dental, vision coverage during service. It's all handled mostly in-house unless you need a specialist, that kind of thing. Vacation time, if you have student loans, those kinds of things, career and skills training. For, I think, this audience, you have the skills, you have the training. If you're interested in becoming a Peace Corps volunteer, I have no doubt you'd likely be a shoo-in. But these are some of the benefits that you might see during service. Safety and health, like I said, you've got a medical officer, they have a duty phone. So basically you have a doctor on call 24/7, which I did not use enough of when I was in China. We've got a safety and security team there. They do provide the 3 months of training as soon as you arrive. That's for language training, technical training, also a lot about integration and immersion. So that's really to help you be successful in integrating into the community and to keep safe as well. Obviously, it's a US government program, so we've got support there. That was definitely seen whole of agency effort during the evacuation last year. So if there's any sort of civil unrest or natural disaster, or hopefully not another once in 100-year pandemic, but they would be able to support you there, get you out of the country even if necessary. And dedicated victim advocacy in case there was something that happened overseas. And in terms of benefits after service, so this is, again, another question that I get is, what would I do after service? Well, for a lot of folks, if this is something you were interested in doing after you had already retired, you had a long and fulfilling career, and you were just interested in kind of getting out, seeing the world, that could be its own reward, honestly, if you were really kind of just service motivated and oriented. But, coming back, there might be, some concerns about how to integrate back into life in the US. And they do that through a number of ways. You get about $10,000 in transition funds. That's all pre-tax, so you would have to probably pay some of that in tax, but they've got that available for you as a cushion to kind of get back into the swing of things in the US. Grad school benefits, in case you were interested in going to grad school after Peace Corps, we've got a number of really awesome programs that we have partnerships with. Professional networking and career services, federal employment advantages, And then they do have a couple of other options for student loan forgiveness if you still had student loans, and access to affordable healthcare insurance. That's kind of a temporary thing until you were kind of integrated back into the US, but they want to make sure that you're kind of getting back into the swing of things. So that's kind of the bulk of the presentation that I had for you. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Charlie, who's going to talk a little bit more about the specific partnership between Rotary and Peace Corps. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to him, and we are going to have questions after this, so please stick around if you do have questions. If you're online, feel free to type them in the chat, or we'll look forward to answering them in person. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my second Rotary presentation in 2 days. The other one actually was a little bit more fun. I talked about specifically my Peace Corps experience and what it was like and what all the cultural things that I hit as being a Peace Corps volunteer overseas. I wanted to let you know in the intro about who I am. I did not put in there that I've been a Rotarian since 2005. I started in the Utica, New York Rotary Club. So I've been told, I think by Gary, that you have someone in your club who is from Utica, New York, perhaps? Perhaps that person is not here today. And on small world kind of stuff, I talked to someone in Arlington, Virginia, just 2 days ago. Don Drock, who is active in working with immigrants and refugees. He's a returned Peace Corps volunteer. Here we go. So there's a lot of details in these slides, but I promise I won't make it death by PowerPoint. I'll just try to highlight some of the key features that are in some of these slides. How many of you actually didn't know that there is a partnership between Peace Corps and Rotary International? That is great to see. I love to see those hands go up. The idea came from a group of us here who are Rotarians and who had served as Peace Corps volunteers. As a matter of fact, Jim Schwabe was part of that original group. After a few years of nudging and prodding and talking to RI and talking to Peace Corps in Washington, D.C., we were actually able to get them to realize there's something going on here between these two organizations. They probably need to focus on it a little bit more. As Travis put up before, this is why. This is why there's a partnership agreement. Our areas of focus are so close that we might almost be the same organizations. So what is Partnering for Peace? We know that RI and Peace Corps operate all the way up here at the 30,000 foot level. But in reality, as Rotarians, we also know that where's the work get done? It gets done at the grassroots level. What we found out after the partnership was in place for about 2 years, when Steve Werner and I would be talking to people, we would find out that Peace Corps Post, the country directors, by and large, didn't know about it. And we talked to clubs and found out they didn't really know about it. And district governors really didn't know about it. The hands that just went up there before, we didn't see that a few years ago. So what we did was we started a Partnering for Peace, which is under the National Peace Corps Association, which helps to support all returned Peace Corps volunteers. And we started an affiliate group there. And our main mission is to get that 30,000 foot partnership and bring it back down to the grassroots level. So what can your club do specifically to help with this? So my challenge to you is learning about how to leverage the partnership for better international service projects and for membership. Every now and then we come across someone who's a returned Peace Corps volunteer who's a Rotarian and we don't know about it. And I'm going to ask the question here, is there anyone who wants to put their hand up because they did serve as a Peace Corps volunteer? I want to get to know you after the meeting. The next thing is find outgoing Peace Corps volunteers. Now this can be a little bit of a challenge, and Travis would support this. There's a lot of security in Peace Corps and they really don't share a lot of information about volunteers. But that said, we as Rotarians have pretty broad networks. We get to talk to a lot of people in our communities. When you find out that your friend, your neighbor, someone who's a son or daughter, a granddaughter, a grandson, and I don't want to be ageist here, so I'm going to say a mom, a dad, a grandparent, get to know them. Invite them to your club. Let them know that whether during their service, that you as a club are there to help support them. During service, they might find an international service project that your club might like to support that has a real grassroots quality because they recognize it because they live in the community. If you're doing overseas projects, Peace Corps volunteers in country can help support your projects. So as an example, they can help with your community assessment. It's at site. If you've done international service projects, you know you need another club at the other side to handle the management of the project, to make sure that the money is spent properly. But you probably also know a lot of times those clubs are back in the capital of the country, particularly if it's a real developing country. Those Rotary clubs are not out in the field, but a global grant project, a grant, can also have written into it that that club can work with the local Peace Corps volunteer who's out in the remote areas to help with your community assessment and also to make sure the project is being done as it should. Sometimes the host Rotary Club I'm sorry, I just covered that piece. Locally, you might reach out to your local RPCV organization. So if you're doing an international service project, say in Zambia, how might you find out a little bit more about the culture of Zambia? You probably have a returned Peace Corps volunteer here in Colorado who served in the Zambia. So how do you find out about that? Actually, me. I didn't tell you, but I'm also the president of Returned Peace Corps Volunteers of Colorado. I have access to that database, and actually I have helped connect a number of clubs with Returned Peace Corps volunteers. If you saw the article that was just in the Rotarian, this month's Rotarian, about the partnership, the Mead Club a few years ago was doing a project in Central America. And we were able to get a couple local Returned Peace Corps volunteers to come to their club and talk to them about what's the culture like there? What are the things you should do and what are the things you should not do? This is also an opportunity for membership. And I'll give you a good example of that. And again, my club. So my club, you might not know it, has a satellite group under our main mothership club. And that satellite group is made up of all returned Peace Corps volunteers. And they have brought an incredible energy to our club. One of the things I would like everyone to consider, and particularly an RPCV, and I know I talked to Gary about this, Randy about this, is to have someone in your organization become a member of Partnering for Peace. There's no charge to it. We don't send out a lot of emails, but the nature of it is just to let clubs know, here's what we're doing, and here's what we're working on, and how you can use it within your club. I was looking for the map. It's all the way over there. So this is a heat map that I got from the director of Third Goal at Peace Corps a couple of years ago. And it kind of shows you about where most Peace Corps volunteers end up after their service. And if you look there under the Colorado area, you'll probably notice that we're not a red area, but we're a yellow area. There are a lot of returned Peace Corps volunteers in our neck of the woods. So Rotary Peace Corps Week. You, as a club, are doing exactly what John Hugo has asked all of you to do, and that is to engage the Peace Corps community during this particular week, Rotary Peace Corps Week, by having Travis and myself here to do a presentation to you. And also that you're recognizing Jim Schwabe, who was a Peace Corps volunteer, as part of your club. Partnering for Peace has done 2 webinars so far this week. We have a 3rd one that's coming up. I will make sure that you get all the information about that. We're going to have those webinars on our YouTube channel. The first one had John Hugo and Carol Spahn, who's the acting director of Peace Corps at the moment. They did a 30-minute interview And then after that, we had 2 representatives from Rotary and Peace Corps come on to do a Q&A session. And it was very informative. So you might be interested in seeing that at a later date. So also, what is Partnering for Peace doing to try to help move the partnership along? As an example, I get on a call with RI and with Peace Corps about every 2 months. They have partnership leads specifically for the partnership between Peace Corps and Rotary, and they talk on a regular basis, and I talk with them on a regular basis too, to make sure that the partnership is functioning actively and energetically. Peace Corps has just released a guidance document to all the posts around the world. There's 60 some odd countries when they get going and again and having volunteers back in place. But the guidance is really a pretty amazing document, and it tells country directors and directors of operation there, how can you engage with your local Rotary clubs in your country? And we as an organization have also isolated who are those clubs that are really close to Peace Corps post. In my ideal world, Peace Corps country directors and Rotary clubs will be getting together every month or two and having a cup of coffee, or maybe a beer or a glass of wine, just to talk about, here's what we're doing, and here's how we can work with one another when an idea does come up. The thought is that you don't want that introduction to be happening when you've got a project that's ready to go. You want that introduction to be happening some point before, so that Peace Corps post isn't like, why are you contacting me? Get them to know one another. We're also working with Peace Corps to develop Rotary presentations to Peace Corps volunteers as part of their training. So within training, within your 2 years, you get a pre-service training, a mid-service training, and a close of service training. The thought is that, and we were about ready to experiment with this in Ecuador, is like for pre-service training, you get a Rotarian comes up, gets in front of you and just gives them a little bit of information on the partnership. And then at mid-service training, they get in a little bit more detail to say, okay, if you've got a really good project and you need a little bit of cash, maybe you can go back to your Rotary Club back in your home state, in your home city. And then at the end of service, they will get a presentation that says, when you get back to the States, find your local Rotary Club. Give them a presentation on what you're doing. We have also created a toolbox which has all kinds of interesting information. Handouts, videos. There's a reference to that guidance that I was just talking about, which is really a pretty good read to just get a sense of what resources are out there for you and how Partnering for Peace can help you with that strategy when you need to do it. This is not something that you're going to hit all the time. It's just something is every now and then you're going to say, hopefully the back of your head will say, I need to get in touch with the Partnering for Peace guys. I need to get in touch with a Peace Corps volunteer. I need to get in touch with a return Peace Corps volunteer because it'll actually benefit our projects. So we've already discussed a little bit about Rotary Peace Corps Week. And what I'll do is I'll send along links back to Randy that he can share with all of you about the videos that we're doing. And I'm going to hopefully connect with a couple people here and have them be part of Partnering for Peace so they can get our intermittent emails. And I have to ask you, how many of you do see the September Rotarian and the article on there specifically about the partnership? Great, I love that everyone's remembering to open up the Rotarian. So that particular photograph that was at the beginning of that, did anyone recognize where that photograph was taken? There's a little pull off on 36 right before you get into Boulder. Rotary sent out to us a professional photographer, and we got to that pull off and then went up into that area right there to take the photographs. And the really funny thing about it, I don't know whether you got a kick out of the photograph itself, but the photographer said to us, he showed us a picture. He said, it was a rock and roll band. It's like, you know, rock and roll bands, the guys always have this attitude and how they stand. Well, that was the premise for what we were doing. He was trying to make this look like a rock and roll band. And if you saw it, you might not get that sense of amusement or that entertaining sense of it, but they were just trying to make us look a little cooler than we are. And with that, I have some information up in here about Partnering for Peace, my email address, Steve Werner's email address, And I really look forward. Hopefully, we can work more closely together in the future. And like I say, it's not that this is going to happen every week, but every now and then, if you need a hand, we're here to help. And I thank you very much for having us today, and I hope you enjoyed it.
So I saw the people that I know that served in the Peace Corps after college. But I saw that it said 18 and over. I'm just curious what percentage of volunteers come from that post-high school, pre-college group, and what percentage of the folks that participate or apply to participate in the program actually make it in?
Yeah, I can answer that because I get the question every now and then, is there an age limit on being a Peace Corps volunteer? And my response to them quite humorously is not dead. You can, there's a guy at the moment who, his name is Curry Johnson, and Curry has been a Peace Corps volunteer, I think 8 times. He did it once years ago, and since retirement, he's done it 7 more times. I think the percentage I last heard was that about 15% of Peace Corps volunteers are over the age of 50 or 55. So it's a significant amount.
So I picked up on the comment that the volunteers have been recalled and are not currently posted overseas. So what is the current activity of the Peace Corps internationally?
Not much. Peace Corps Post is still active, and at this point they are working on developing new programs, new projects specifically for when Peace Corps volunteers come back in. One of the things that when you get to country, it's not like it was back in the 60s where they would drop you off in a city and say, go figure out where you're going to live and go figure out what your project is. All the projects are assigned based upon working with the country to start with, to say, what are your needs, where do you need it, and making sure that when the Peace Corps volunteer, they get there. There's no volunteers serving at the moment. The last I heard was that they were hoping to start to get out volunteers at the end of this year, the beginning of next year. I think Belize might be the first country. It's largely a function of what is the COVID situation like in the country, and if something popped up again, how quickly could we get volunteers if we absolutely had to? So Peace Corps got out all the volunteers in something like 7 days when COVID hit. And some people said, well, you know, they're probably safer there. But one of the things Peace Corps is really good at doing is making sure that from a medical point of view, you have access to services when you need it, even if it means flying you out of the country. And so from Jody Olson's, the director at the time, from her point of view was, we can't guarantee that because as COVID shut down, airline travel shut down, getting people out of the country shut down. So that was the main reason. But they will be coming back, and I don't think they expect to be full service for all countries and all the regions, probably to the end of 2022 or beginning of 23. That's what I'm hearing. But you know, they've been adjusting this right as we go along because they thought we were going to get back sooner and then Delta hit, and that's delayed what they're going to be doing.
The United States has on several occasions mistakenly engaged in nation building, and I wonder if the Peace Corps or these organizations have made any contact with the State Department to explore how to thread the needle between trying to impose our values on other countries and as well as respecting those other countries' values in a peaceful way.
I would say, and if I'm hearing your question well, not completely clear to me, but Peace Corps does not get into nation building. It's all about community development. So as an example, I was a business enterprise volunteer, and I was assigned specifically to work with a fishing project on the island of Mi in the country of Vanuatu. And this was all about this fishing cooperative that had received boats and ice machines and generators from the EU, and the project wasn't working. So it's typically, everything we do is very grassroots. It's never specifically about nation building. Did I answer your question, or did I miss a piece?
No, I understand what you said is your purpose. I just wondered whether there's something to be shared about your success that would have be beneficial to the State Department and avoiding the mistakes that we've made in the past?
There's a real separation between Peace Corps and the State Department. And every now and then there's a push to try to throw them underneath the State Department. The director of the Peace Corps reports directly to the President of the United States. They do not report to the State Department. There's a real need to keep that very, very, very separate, because then you can lose the trust of the people that you are serving. So I think that's more to your point of your question.
How do you select which nations or areas of the world the Peace Corps goes into to set up operations? Like, what are the criteria or some of the major criteria?
Boy, Travis, can you answer that question? I don't know that specific. I can't answer that specifically. I know there has to be a need, and the country has to request it, and even there it can take years until it actually happens. As an example, Vietnam has been wanting to have Peace Corps volunteers for about 5 years, and it was just announced in the past year that the newest country for Peace Corps will be Vietnam. Travis, can you contribute anything to this?
No, you're exactly right, Charlie. First and foremost, it comes down to very high-level conversations between Washington D.C. and these countries that are there that are inviting us, right? If it was some metric based off of a country and how well they're developed, there are a lot of countries that Peace Corps volunteers might be in, but ultimately it's up to those countries, and those are kind of those high-level conversations that they have. And like you said, it does take years to get volunteers into those countries. A lot of groundwork needs to be laid. Yeah, great question.
There has to be definitely a need, and a need that can be fulfilled by the volunteers.
Okay. Charlie and Travis, on behalf of the club, I want to thank you so much for speaking to us. This was a new experience for us to have a tandem speaker duo, and you guys pulled it off. You did it very well. And Travis, I want to thank you in particular for informing us of the vital work of Peace Corps that's going on as we speak to build peace and friendship in the world. And Charlie, for taking us from that 30,000-foot view to the grassroots perspective of how our club could partner with the Peace Corps in our projects. And in further recognition of that, and thank you, as you know, because you're a Rotarian, we are real close to eradicating polio and have been working on that for 35 years. And it looks like it could be just any day now that the announcement is made that we've been successful. So, but we want to keep the work going. In your name, in your names, I should say, Charlie and Travis, our club is contributing 100 doses of vaccine, to the Polio Plus Fund. So thank you again for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.